Hi, everyone. Welcome in. I'm sitting here with Rukmini. Today, we're going to talk about a conference we just returned from in Chicago where we taught a workshop. And so we have a class. We actually were able to record the class. But before we played it, we wanted to give you a little context as to what we were teaching, where we were teaching, and why we were teaching on this subject. So the name of the workshop that we taught was called Opening the Inner Heart Space, Linking Nature's Voice, Divinity, and Accessing Our Own Intuition. And this was one class that Rukmini and I co-taught. Rukmini also taught another class on Bhakti Yoga during the conference. And this is a very well-known international conference. Rukmini, could you talk about where we were and the name of
Yeah,
the conference?
yes. So this is actually a very historic conference that started in 1893 in Chicago. So it's come full circle after 100 years. There was a bit of a break, but it was sort of revived in 1993 after 100 years. And in India, this conference is very, very famous because of the impact that Swami Vivekananda had, apparently on the Western mind in Chicago in 1893. So it's a beautiful gathering of interfaith, but really we were reflecting. It was really very interspiritual. I mean, there were people of every stripe and sharing, and there was just a very warm and loving mood, sharing songs, sharing kirtan, sharing wisdom, sharing discussions about social issues. I went to one seminar about prison reform. So very, very interesting, looking up a lot about the environment, looking at, the human impact on the environment. So it was just a very, beautiful heart space of caring people who care and act in the world in different ways.
Yeah,
So
and the original title for the conference was the Parliament of Religions Conference, and it's now called the Parliament of World Religions Conference. Is that right?
I think so. I think so. And what was the title of this year's conference? A call to conscience, right? Do you
Yeah.
a call to conscience. So yeah, so asking us to, stand up and act in from the heart space. So I think it's powerful and it's world changing. And I think our little workshop was well received. We had some very interesting people. We had a Catholic priest, one of the participants. We had a woman rabbi who was one of the participants, and people from many parts of the world. Maybe about 30 people, but it was a beautiful mix of seekers and lovers,
It was.
lovers of God by any name, or if you don't like the word God, then you don't have to use the word God.
Spirit by any name,
Yes,
source by any name. Yeah, it
yes.
was it was beautiful. I thought it was we set up the room in a big circle. So in the video you'll only see sort of half of the circle, but there was a large circle. We had an altar that we had set up in the center with images of the divine and images from nature. And really our purpose was to bring people together and give them an experience of going into the heart and connecting to divinity within the heart space. Would you say that that's right? Anything
Yes,
you want to
and
add to
then
that?
employing divination, we had these beautiful cards that you chose and I chose, and they were all face down. And so the idea was, the intention was, why are you here? What is your question? What are you seeking? What is your aspiration? And then when you choose a card face down, that card, what is that card speaking to you? So yeah, I think it was very powerful.
Yeah. So if you're going to be watching the rest of this video, the first part starts off with a guided meditation from Rukmini. So you might want to listen to this when you have some quiet time or some time to, maybe probably not driving, but when you can just sort of sit and think and follow this guided meditation, because that really sets the stage for the rest of the divination practices.
And we use beautiful poetry that we love from some of our favorite poets from different cultures and different traditions. So that was very important for both of us, and I think for the people who attended as well.
Yeah. Yeah. We had multicultural poetry. We had Goravani's music playing when people were walking in. And Yeah, it was, we really wanted to create a holistic experience where everyone was interactive and yeah, there were lots of we sprayed rose water in the air as people were coming in too. So we wish we could spray it through the screen so you all listening could have that too. But we were thinking maybe we would offer this again in person sometime. So if any of you out there have a conference where you'd like Rukmini and I to come and teach, we would love to offer this as a workshop. Maybe we're in the town where you live, so that's
Yeah,
what we were talking about too.
beautiful. And another point I'd like to make is that the path of bhakti yoga is a path of engaging all the senses. It's not about denying the senses. Some spiritual paths are about, okay, let's shut down the senses. But in bhakti, it's really about engaging the senses. So engaging the sense of smell, engaging the hearing and the voice and the ear and the touch and the heart. So I really love that. That's one of my most favorite things about the path of bhakti yoga. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was one of our goals.
It was. And yeah, I think one thing that in person when we taught it, we did a little bit of movement to warm up the body and get the all the senses and get the heart space really open. So if you wanted to take a few minutes, even just to move and do your own stretching or qigong or yoga, that's a nice thing to do before you sit down for the guided meditation. And then I know that what we did is we had just greeting cards that I pick up wherever I travel. I like to buy a few greeting cards from local artists, and Rukmini had visited her sister up in Maine and had gotten some cards. So we had gotten just a bunch of different greeting cards that had nature inspired images. But if you don't have greeting cards or something like that, you can use a tarot deck. This is one that I really like called the Herbal Astrology Oracle. And so, all the back sides are the same. So that way, when you're asking the question, just like we did with the greeting cards, you can't see what the answer will be. And you're just sort of trusting your intuition and being guided to a card. So if you have an oracle deck, you can use any oracle deck really. Or if you also have a stack of greeting cards, you can spread those out too and see which one might draw to you. Are there any other ways that you might let people or guide people to do this at home?
Just, I think it was all about intuition. So I think it was follow your intuition, follow your heart. And that's, I think that's divine guidance that we so often don't hear and tend to shut down in our hurried lives. So that was the purpose. And I think if you're going to try it at home, it's all about opening your heart to that inner voice, that still small voice, right?
Mm,
So,
beautiful. Yes, yes. So we really hope you enjoy this talk. And if you have any questions, you can post questions on our YouTube channels and we'll get back to you. And you can always email us, and you can find our email addresses on our website. Rukmini has a brand new website, which is beautiful. So you can go to Rukmini Walker and .com, and I'll put is that right? Is it rukminiwalker.com?
that's right.
I'll include a link in the description, and then you can also reach me at my website, which is skyhouseherbs.com, and I'll include a link. So we'd love to hear from you and your experiences either before or after you listen or participate.
Thank you, Ashley. Beautiful.
Thank you. All right, everyone, enjoy the talk, and we hope to hear from you.
So this is my dear partner in dialogue, Ashley Elenbaas. She's an herbalist. She lives in Minnesota. She's a great lover of showing. Yeah. Welcome. Just make sure everyone gets a journal. Yeah. Welcome. Welcome. She's a great lover of nature and trees and the earth and the herbs and really wise woman about healing with all those elements. And I'm Rukmini Walker. I live in Maryland, suburban BC. And we both follow the path of Bhakti Yoga, which I would say it's a softening of the heart. It's an opening of the heart. Sometimes it's said to be a loving responsiveness. So it's a call and response between divinity, welcome, thank you for coming, between divinity and ourselves. Sometimes I like to say bhakti is a yoga of gratitude, like reciprocal gratitude. So that's a little something about us. And I wanted to lead you in a little bit of a guided meditation now. So please be comfortable. If you're comfortable with your feet on the floor and you're comfortable with your eyes closed, whatever feels good and right to you. Take a deep breath. Bring your mind here into your body. Another deep breath through your nose. Let it out. Be present here. And then one more final deep breath. We're breathing in blessings and breathing out distractions. When you're breathing out, be aware that you're breathing out. And please visualize a tree with many leaves and branches and many sweet and bitter fruits. There is a little bird who perches delicately on one branch of this tree as she sits on this branch or that branch of the tree. She tries to taste the many sweet and bitter fruits of the tree. Today she has come to sit on this tree. Tomorrow she may find another tree in the forest of this world. This little bird is you, the soul, the Atma. The tree where she sits is your body. The sweet and bitter fruits are the various enjoyments and sufferings of our lives in this world. As the little bird is tasting, enjoying, and suffering the fruits of the tree of this body, there is always a companion bird alongside her, a trusted friend, a bird of another feather who always accompanies her, waiting for the little friend bird to turn to her friend. This bird is the inner guide, the super soul, divine guide or Paramatma, who is always waiting for us to turn toward our friend. This friend has been waiting for a very long time, but we have been so busy eating, suffering, and enjoying the bitter and sweet fruits of this worldly tree. We did not see, did not notice this dear friend of ours. At this moment, turn to your trusted friend. Introduce yourself. Or maybe you are speaking up again after a very long time. Would you like to tell this trusted friend a problem that you've been holding in your heart? Or some hope or aspiration that you secretly cherish? Open your heart to embrace that one who has always, always been there waiting, watching, offering to guide you to the place of love, to the place of peace and hope and understanding. For so long, we have turned away, forgotten. But from today, from this moment, begin to turn forward, to remember that long watching, listening, loving friend. Go to the deepest place you can find in your innermost heart and quiet your heart to listen to the song sung by your very dear friend. To take shelter to receive guidance, to feel the treasure of the presence of that long forgotten, loving friend. What do you say to that dearest friend? What is your friend saying to you right now? Thank you very much. You can open your eyes if you like. So, is this a moment where we should ask, is there something you'd like to put in that little petite journal that you have? Something that might have come up for you? Yeah. And does everyone have a pen? You don't, we've got some pens here. Maybe there's something, a little something that might have just come up for you in that little guided meditation. Something that you might want to say to that friend, or something that that friend might be wanting to say to you. So continuing our, should I give you a little more time? Is that good? Is that good? Okay. Here is a beautiful questioning poem from our dear Rumi, who I would consider a bhakti poet from the Islamic world. That's not cultural appropriation. I love this poem, so see if you like it. Oh, friend, which is better, sugar or the sugar maker? Is the beauty of the moon better, or that of the moon maker? Oh, gardens, are you better, or your orchards and flowers, or the maker of flowers and fragrant daffodils? Oh, wisdom, are you better in your knowledge and understanding, or the maker of 100 instant insights and perceptions? Oh, love, though you cause frenzy and turbulence, there is one who makes fire of the devotee's love. I have lost myself in that oneness of love. I have become a wanderer. At times, he burns my feathers. At times, he makes me new feathers. His love fills the sea of the heart. He makes countless gems and particles of consciousness. And yet, he crushes those gems and dissolves them in love, transforming such wondrous love into something else. He shines in my heart like the sun. He throws arrows externally and makes shields in essence.
So in listening to these words and the meditation, Rukmini and I, our vision for this workshop was to really try to create an experience that brings us into the heart, not just talking about what the heart is or what it's supposed to do, but actually feeling the heart and feeling that wisdom that lives inside and connecting to it. And so the exercise we started with the birds, the divine friend inside who lives in the heart, who communicates from that heart space, who's already there. We don't have to go anywhere else. And moving our bodies in a way too, that hopefully also helps us to reinvigorate our connection with the heart. In this workshop, one of the things that I think is so important in the world we live in is finding meaning in our daily lives and being able to come back to our hearts when we're pulled away from it. And so we'll be doing a little bit of work with divination. I don't know if any of you are familiar with divination. Yeah, I see some nods. Yeah. So I was listening to this podcast from a Jungian psychologist, and he was talking about that, one of Jung's students defined meaning as that which affirms life as it is. And so we all have the ability to make meaning and to find meaning in things. And if we can bring it through the filter of the heart, if we can see something outside of us and bring it through the filter of the heart and find meaning to help us feel more at peace with the way things are, there's such a great gift in that. Another way that we stay connected to the heart space is by staying connected to each other's hearts. By seeing, and I think that's the purpose of this particular conference, is coming together, looking at the way so many different people see spirit and experience God and experience the divine, but finding the commonality of how do our hearts feel we're in the presence of that.
So, yes, we're all resonating with the heart space. Thank you all for being here for that. So I think it's important to know that we're each of us is not an island. We're intrinsically individual and unique, but we're not islands. And I like to think of this spiritual underground river that flows all over the world underground, and that each of us is like, or each spiritual tradition, you might say, is like an oasis or an aquifer where that holy water can kind of come up and express itself. On the first day of the parliament, I heard this Buddhist woman say that she learned from her teachers that there are over 800 paths up the mountain. I forget exactly the number she said. But I was thinking, you know what? It's actually each individual, is a different path. Even within a tradition, there's so many different individuals. So I believe that the path of bhakti is about harmonizing with that divine voice. And I think the metaphor that I think harmonizes or resonates with me is the idea of if you have a sitar or a tambura, they're the strings that are being played, but then they're the non-dominant strings that just resonate in sangha or in association with those dominant strings. And that idea of harmonizing or accessing that divine voice and being able to harmonize my desires, my aspirations with divinity like that. And then there's another bhakti image that comes from our tradition that I think is really beautiful. It's about becoming a deep sea aquatic, not a bubble in the ocean that merges with the ocean, as some traditions say, but in bhakti we say, no, become a deep sea aquatic. Keep your individuality and become a deep sea aquatic that just comes up like, I think of dolphin, come up to share, but then live in the depths. Don't live on the surface. where sometimes the little fish will get gobbled up by a hawk when they're swimming on the surface. So be a deep sea aquatic and come up when it's time to stare joyfully and then go back down into the places of the depths. So that's what I was thinking. Yeah. So we're going to use this divination, this process of divination to try to dive deep into some inquiry, to try to access our own intuition, which I think is a really interesting topic for me, maybe for all of you, So how do we dive deep during this process of inquiry? To me, it's about seeking surprise, seeking a sense of wonder, amazement. Recently, I read something about radical noticing. That how do we again today and again tomorrow, keep seeing the world as sacred by radical noticing and by developing a deep sense of awe. I've been praying for that in the morning when I wake up. Let me experience a sense of awe today. And it's beautiful what you notice when you have an intention like that. You can notice gosh, one day I noticed this little brown frog. He was like a clump of dirt. He was about this big. And he was just hopping across the grass. And I don't know if I would have noticed him or her if it hadn't been for that intention. So yeah, the idea of surprise. How do we respond with a sense of wonder rather than just a dull, hard expectation? Yeah. So maybe reducing expectations and opening ourselves up to a sense of wonder, a sense of radical noticing.
So in this next more interactive part, we're gonna have you kind of take that image of going deep in to look for symbols and wisdom. And in my experience, I've been doing divination since I was about 13. I had a really cool aunt. I hope everyone has a cool aunt out there, or you are a cool aunt, who got me my first deck of tarot cards when I was 13. And she traveled the world and has been such a great influence on me. And she taught me how to see magic, in things that, especially in times that were really hard. And so number one thing she taught me was that the quality of your answer depends on the quality of your question. So what I'd like us to think about, take some time with, is what question do you have? Like, what is the question of your heart? And I really liked the sharings that John, whose question was like, what's my next step? And sometimes life I feel like is breadcrumbs. It's like following the breadcrumb trail. So what are you looking for next? Like, what is your heart looking for next? That might be a question. So let's just take a minute to sit, and in your journal, you might have several drafts of your question, but try to get to the heart of your question. What is something that's burning, a burning heart question that you want to ask today? And then we're going to talk about divination and use these symbols to give us an answer, or at least a way of looking at the answer.
And your answer is confidential to you. It's not something that we're going to ask you to share.
Yes, thank you. So let's just take a minute to write that down, or if it's so clear, you can just hold it in your mind's eye. Take another minute to sit with the question. And one of my friends who's a professional tarot reader, she said, before you draw the cards, ask the question 10 times and do it with like different voices. Like, what is my next step? What is my next step? What is my next step? So take a minute in your own inside voice internally. And if you have your question, repeat it 10 times. Try different tones. Really get the question clear. And once you've repeated it 10 times, you can come up to this table. And we have the images facing down. And I want you to come and let the card that is picking you reveal itself to you. So just see from that kind of water intuition, electric charge to electric charge, magnet to magnet. You can come up to the table and choose one of the cards and bring it back to your seat.
Or you could say in a mood of prayer.
In a mood of prayer, yes. So once you've found and made your match, you can take it back to your seat and take a look at it. And take some time to study the image that you've chosen or that has been given to you. And in your notebook, make some notes. Make some notes. Why? What do you see in this image? And symbolism is rich, but it's only as rich as what we can find when we're doing that deep diving work. So the symbol might mean something different to someone else, but what does that image mean to you? And why do you think you pulled this particular image? So look deeply from the heart. Is there anything you'd like to add, Rukmini?
I was just gonna ask you, can I pull a card for you? Okay, say a prayer. Okay. So the question is, what is the image saying to you?
If you haven't already, how does this image answer your question?
So I love what Ashley said about air being about curiosity. And I always hear from Krista Tippett, be curious. Right? So maybe these images from nature might give some clues or some guidance. So it's about having welcome, having a seeker's mind, looking for clues, messages, signs from the divine, seeking surprise and a sense of wonder. And the path of bhakti is a call and a response. It's about our call to divinity or our source, and then just waiting to hear a response, seeking surprise and a sense of wonder. And I wanted to share this, the loving responsiveness and offering of the heart and opening of the heart. But I wanted to share this little something from one of my favorite teachers. Maybe you know her, Robin Wall Kimmerer, Braiding Sweetgrass. So she said something that I think is very beautiful. She says, even a wounded world is feeding us. Even a wounded world holds us, giving us moments of wonder and joy. I choose joy over despair, not because I have my head in the sand, but because joy is what the earth gives me daily, and I must return the gift.
So we'd love to hear from you all, if you're open to sharing. And this is completely optional, but if you'd like to share with us your question and what you drew and the answer that it provided you. Again, this is just such a nice way of connecting hearts to heart. But also, I think when we speak these things out loud, they also get a little more powerful and a little more clear sometimes. So would anyone like to share? Yes.
So maybe I'll just show first. No, please. Because it only makes sense to you through the image.
What's up with it?
Oh, thank you. I would have shared. Our friends are over here. So, my name is Ruthie from Boulder. And my question that I wrote, I had 3 questions, and of course I was going to be like, which question? But then I went with who and where can I find my next teachers, like spiritual teachers? And I thought, this is incredible. So the way I interpreted this, I'm Jewish, I'm a rabbi, and I thought, oh my gosh, look, it's childlike inquisitiveness that I have to bring back to my thinking and learning. And I thought, oh, roots, my Jewish roots, that's where I'm going to need to go deeper in. And I said, oh, look, it's only one tree. They're not looking at tons of trees. So that's my tree. And that by going to the roots, it helps me to feel more planted and on the earth, which is true. And then I've had of late curiosity around psilocybin and psychedelics, you know, and I so that's what came to mind for me today.
Beautiful.
We have time for one more, just one more. Anyone else?
John, maybe one, if appropriate to ask. He said he was in anything. I think it was John.
If this gentleman would go.
Yeah.
Yes, well, this gentleman had his hand up with the pink shirt.
Close. Yeah, I like to share that. Cool.
So that one of the things was my question too, was what's my next step? I went into a lot of deep thought with it, but what I drew, this is really cool. It's a young lady and it's birds that she's letting go. And there's already flowers that are kind of blooming, that already have bloomed. And there's some that haven't yet. And in the background, I just actually noticed this. I didn't see the background there, but it's all musical notes. And then of course, the woman right here is made out of stars. So the first thought that came to my mind was let go. Because the music's already playing, you know. And there's many things that's already blossomed in my life, and there's some that haven't, but they're getting ready, they're starting. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if that's significant, but I mean, it's great. And then so that young lady, I see that as that universe that's already within me, which is subconsciously, it's already there. So I just gotta let go. Holding on to that question is not really doing me any good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'd love to hear more, but our time is so short. We need another half an hour here, but yeah, these cards are for you to take home. They're gifts from us. And I want to, speaking of trees, and I wanted to share this beautiful piece from Thomas Merton from New Seeds of Contemplation. He says, so what? A tree gives glory to God by being a tree. For in being what God means it to be, it is obeying him. It consents, so to speak, to his creative love. It is expressing an idea which is in God and which is not distinct from the essence of God, and therefore a tree imitates God by being a tree. The more a tree is like itself, the more it is like him. If it tried to be like something else, which it was never intended to be, it would be less like God, and therefore it would give him less glory. No two created beings are exactly alike, and their individuality is no imperfection. On the contrary, the perfection of each created thing is not merely in its conformity to an abstract type, but in its own individual identity with itself. This particular tree will give glory to God by spreading out its roots in the earth and raising its branches into the air and the light in a way that no other tree before or after it ever did or will do. Do you imagine that the individual created things in the world are imperfect attempts at reproducing an ideal type, which the Creator never quite succeeded in actualizing on earth? If that is so, they do not give him glory, but proclaim that he is not a perfect creator. Therefore, each particular being in its individuality, its concrete nature and entity, with all its own characteristics and its private qualities and its own inviolable identity, gives glory to God by being precisely what he wants it to be here and now, in the circumstances ordained for it by his love and his infinite art.
So we thank you all so much for coming. We hope these images have been helpful in this journey, and that that our time together has served you and your heart well. We also hope that you continue the work of looking for symbols in nature all around you, and looking for signs in the eyes of all of those you meet during this conference. And from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for being here with us today.
So I know our time is over, but in closing, I want to share one poem from a piece from the Bhakti tradition from the great woman Saint Mirabai. So if you have one more sec. Okay, she says, this is called Awake to the Name. So she says, to be born in a human body is rare. Don't throw away the reward of your past good deeds. Life passes in an instant. The leaf doesn't go back to the branch. The ocean of rebirth sweeps up all beings hard, pulls them into its cold running, fierce, implacable currents. Giridhara, which is a name for Krishna, God. Your name is the raft, the one safe passage over. Take me quickly. All the awake ones travel with Mira, singing the name. She says with them, get up, stop sleeping. The days of a life are short.